In this video, I'll be talking about letters of recommendation. If you are an educator, and by that I mean if you are a professor or you work in a government institution or you are an employee in some way and you've mentored a student before and the student have come to you and said, hey, I want a letter of recommendation. Can you help me write a letter of recommendation? This video is for you if you're that person. If I were an admission officer and I was reviewing recommendation letters and a letter does not give me a story example, that's like an anecdote, or a letter is not specific about the interaction of the student with the recommender and the letter is just very generic, it's one paragraph, I would toss it out. Simple. I think educators and I think people in positions of influence or advisors and directors who are asked to write letters, you simply write one paragraph or two paragraphs or very generic statements and you expect that to fly. It will not fly. It will never fly. First things first, what is a letter of recommendation? It is simply a letter that provides perspective about the personality, the professionality, and the interactions and the nature of an applicant. Now, this letter is often written by somebody that's in a position of influence over the applicant. So you've directed them, you've led them, you've guided them, you've managed them before, or you've taught them before. It means you are in a position to provide feedback or detail about the personality, the character of the applicant. And anybody who's reviewing the application and is looking at a rec letter, this is what they're looking for. They're looking for specific facets, specific things that will tell them more about the applicant. Why is this important? Recommendation letters are important because as somebody who is reviewing an application for a candidate, I look at the resume and the resume has a link to the LinkedIn page. And I can go to the LinkedIn page, I can get a glimpse of who this candidate is from their name, their academic training, and all they've done so far, like their experiences listed there. A portion of that appears on the resume. So on the resume, I'm already getting a repeat of the LinkedIn. And so I see what the resume looks like. It gives me a background, academic achievement, publications, if they have any, just about their volunteer experience, their work experience, their education. Everything appears on a resume. Then I go to the statement of purpose. This student expressed themselves. They poured out their heart saying why they want to be in this program. Then I come to the letter of recommendation to get more perspective. This is important because I am probably looking through applications of 20 students or 30 students personally, and I am seeing multiple resumes, I'm seeing multiple statements of purpose. One thing that differentiates and keeps the student apart or sets a student apart is the strength of the recommendation letter. How can the recommendation letter give me more perspective, tell me more about the student? Like the student have told me about themselves. What do other people have to say about the student? That is why the rec letter is important, because it sometimes when the fate of the student is hanging on a balance, that is a tiebreaker. That is the decision maker. So your letter is that important. So how do you write a good or compelling letter of recommendation? Number one thing is your letter should start with credibility, and this means the writer should talk a bit about themselves, about their years of experience in the field, whatever field they are in, their interaction with the student, how long they've known the student, and in what capacity have they interfaced with the student in the past. Now, this will establish how you know the student and will also establish your credibility in the life of the student, and also basically grant credibility to what you're about to say throughout the letter. Step 2, your goal is to provide information about the academic, professional, and personal life of the student. Now, when I say personal life, I don't mean talk about their relationship. Personal means talk about their personal goals. What has the student told you in the past they're personally interested in the area of research? Everything you're speaking about in this area should encapsulate professional language and should focus on the professional world of you and the student. But when I say personal, you should talk about the personal goals of the student, as you should already know that. And then professionally, you should talk about the professional conduct of the student, and academically, you should talk about the academic achievement of the student from your perspective, based on how you interacted with the student, based on what you know about the student. Step number 3, be very specific when you speak. Now, I love specificity. People watching my video, people who know me, people who I would say know me outside of YouTube and has asked for my help with anything in the past, and I was able to provide that help. I love specificity, and by that I mean when you're telling a story, when you're saying something about yourself, whether in your statement of purpose, whether in your resume, in the point in your resume, whenever you're saying anything really, even in the letter of recommendation, you should be very specific. Don't leave anything to assumption. Don't assume that that when you say something as generic as this student is an excellent candidate, they were the best student in my class, I enjoyed them as a student. While that sounds good, it sounds nice on paper, it is not specific. Anybody can say anything about anybody. Anybody can say that about any student. You got to talk about your specific encounter with the student and how the student stood out to you. Why did they stand out, and why today have you decided to recommend them? So you got to make your position clear. I have a small note here to kind of give me some direction on things you must definitely talk about when you write a letter. Okay, maybe not all of them, but touch on certain things. So number one thing is you must talk about the student's achievements and capabilities. Like what is the capability of the student in terms of academic voraciousness? Like how good are they? Are they quick assimilators? Are they slow learners? Are they fast learners? You talk about all these things. Next, talk about the decision making skills. Do you think the student is smart? Have they demonstrated good decision making abilities? And how have they demonstrated this? How have they helped to tutor other students? How have they helped to teach other students or guide other students under your tutorship? How has the student been useful to you and your colleagues and the department and the school at large? I'm just giving you ideas of things you can touch on when you talk about the uniqueness of the student and why you choose to write for the student. You can talk about projects that you worked on with the student, and what was the student's specific contributions to the project. Was the student more hands-free? Were they more hands-on? Did they ask good questions? Did they conceptualize ideas? Did they contribute to the project? How did it work? So you got to talk about stuff like that and talk about your impression of the students during the course of the time you worked with them. So you got to bring a perspective about the students' learning ability, an ability to communicate what they've learned, an ability to collaborate. So you just got to bring all these things to the table. Honestly, we need to support each other. When anyone reaches out and say, hey, write a recommendation letter, please, if you can, spare the time to say yes and try your best to give them a really good, compelling letter. So finally, to wrap up this letter, definitely end the letter with enthusiasm. Talk about how excited you are to write this letter, how supportive you are of the student and their dreams to pursue graduate education, how you've always known that they have the potential to succeed in graduate school because they've demonstrated good academic skills, good research skills, good problem solving skills, and you've always looked forward to when they can apply it to more complex research problems. And you believe that the admission to XYZ University would allow the student to channel those skills and channel that ability or traits you've noticed to solve complex problems and help make the world a better place. Definitely wrap it up with, for example, I recommend John Doe for admission to Trinity University, and quite frankly, I cannot recognize or identify any student that is more deserving of the opportunity to be admitted to this program. So please consider this highly remarkable young man or young woman for admission into your programs. Now, if you want to see what a letter looks like, again, check the link down below. In this video, I have examples of letters you can look at and get an idea of the formatting and the structure and all of that.